So I'm here with Gleb Melnikov. Did I
Hey.
pronounce that right? Or
Yep.
yeah, okay. So Gleb is a up and coming artist who right now he's doing a book at DC Comics, Superman, right? Or is it just the main
Yep.
Superman title you're on?
Yeah. Just Superman.
And
I'm on issue 6. I'm on the current arc from 6 through 8, but I guess they returning to the legacy numbering. So I
oh,
don't
interesting.
remember the number.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, so really it's like
Like
a thousand and something.
I think it's 700 something because I don't know legacy from what point exactly. Maybe it's from the 80s. I don't know.
Right, right. Because if you
It's
say
weird.
legacy from the if it starts from the very beginning, it's got I think it's got to be into the thousands.
Yeah, I think so. Like I don't know.
It depends where you
It's always
start.
weird. Yeah, it's also weird to do that now, like on issue 7. Well, I don't know. Whatever.
Right, yeah.
I guess it just
Don't get in
means
trouble already, Gleb.
no, yeah, no, that's a good thing because people are gonna buy the issue when they're gonna return to the old numbering, and I'm, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
right. They're doing it
yeah,
because they think it's going to help sell more books. So in theory, that should only help you.
and a real like people are gonna buy that shit. Like,
Yeah, yeah. There's a
well,
certain amount of people who are going to eat it up and they're going to love the idea
like
of this.
it's Superman. Yeah, I don't even worry about like
Right,
numbers.
right. Yeah. It's gonna be yeah, it's Superman. It's gonna be at the top of the game no matter what happens.
Hmm.
But you also worked on I'm trying to be careful I don't mess this up. Angel from like
Yeah.
the Buffy and the Vampire Slayer universe that was at Boom.
Yeah, that was basically my first American comic.
Right, yeah, that was
Yeah,
like your first big thing, right?
yeah, and I think I did like 12 or 13 issues,
Hmm.
something like that. That
That's a
was
lot. I mean,
the whole year. Yeah, every month. Like I can't do that now. I don't
hmm,
know. I'm much slower now, but also I'm much better now. So
hmm,
I guess I traded uh, quality for speed,
huh,
or the other way around.
huh. So that was coming out monthly.
Yep.
Angel. I keep thinking Angel, and my brain wants to say Blade, but it's not. It has nothing to do with Blade. But I keep having to stop myself. Like I want to say Blade.
Well, that's the same vibe. The same vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
So both they're both vampire hunters, I guess is this is the common thread. But so that was coming
Mhm.
out. That was monthly, and so I guess that was pretty tough deadline in terms of like every month that's coming out. You don't really have like a big lead time for that, I guess.
Yeah, well, how it works is basically it's stopped for like the first 4 issues, and then you kind of just like you already know the timing, and it's pretty easy when you don't stop. It's when you stop like for a month or something, it's kind of hard to get back on like this schedule. But when you do it for a couple months and it's okay. It's okay.
Hmm. So as long as you just keep going, you
Yeah.
feel like you could keep up with it. It's interesting. So right now, like what can you tell me about like the Superman book? I mean, I'm actually a like a huge Superman guy. Like I'm a huge Superman fan, but just because like I'm working on like my own comics, I'm working on stuff like this podcast, like I have no idea. Like I haven't kept up with Superman for like literally years. So I just have no idea like what's going on. Like I'm looking at some of your stuff. Like I see a couple days ago you posted like a picture of like Lex Luthor with hair. So like I don't know, is that like a flashback or is that
Yeah,
what I
that's
mean? Like
from a flashback, I
okay, it's a
guess.
flashback. All
I
right, that makes sense.
well,
Like what's going on in the current Superman stuff? Like as much as you could tell me or whatever.
Well, this new run by Joshua Williamson, it's pretty much like for the fresh readers. So it's
Oh, interesting.
like new reader friendly. It's like you can just dive in from the first issue, and they're gonna explain you everything and everything else you already know. So I don't know. You don't really have to like read anything else before that.
And
So
it's not like an
like
origin story, right? It's just kind of
no,
assuming.
it's just yeah, it's not the origin, it's not the reboot or something. It's just like I don't know, I don't know, Batman Hush maybe when
Huh.
it's
It's
like
like
part
standalone. You don't need to know everything.
well, not really standalone, just a good entry point for new readers.
I gotcha. That's interesting because kind of the whole idea of this podcast is that it's a comics podcast for people who don't really read comics. So that
Mhm.
sounds kind of perfect for like the people I'm trying to reach or whatever. Like, it sounds like you could just jump right into reading this and not need to know like
Yep.
who Mr. Mixelplick is or whatever, like
Yeah, you just gotta know who Lex Luthor is, who Superman is, and like you're fine.
yeah, and everybody knows that pretty much.
Yep.
That's what I was kind of asking about the origin thing is because, you know, people know the origin of Superman. So I was just curious if it was like going over that again. That's like one of these things that I guess people don't really need. I don't know. Like, well, who am I to say what people need or whatever? But I'm just saying, people know who Superman is and where he came from. So that's interesting to
Yeah.
me that it's just jumping in. It's not re-explaining everything to you. I don't know. So you said that's gonna run for like I guess 2 or 3 issues?
Well, my arc, yes.
Right.
We introducing the new villain, and like after that, I guess I'm gonna draw another like mini arc, maybe 2 issues,
Okay,
like
interesting.
after another guy. So I guess they, I guess they like my pages.
So it's like kind of like a rotating team of artists, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
The first 5 issues, I think it was Jamal Campbell, and he
Okay.
was doing like the whole thing. He was doing well, except the writing. He was doing the pencil inks and colors, and like it stopped to follow after him because it was such a great start, and people already like expecting the same vibe, I guess, and me and Alejandro Sanchez, the colorist, we're going for a little bit different, more maybe less sleek, more old school vibe. I don't know. That sounds weird. Not old school, maybe more of a classic, timeless look. And Campbell's stuff is very like sleek, modern, and well, it's one of those things when like we line artists are very dependable on colorists, and like basically they uh, I don't know, they
It makes a huge
can
difference. I mean,
yeah like the whole final style basically depends on them.
yeah. I mean,
Because the readers and like let's face it, most of the reviewers, they don't see the difference between line art and colors, and what I
right.
mean, they don't know when line art ends and when the colors start, and
Right.
like
Often they won't
they
even mention it,
yeah.
just be like, if the colors are bad, that'll just mean reviewers will think you're bad.
I
Like they
think
won't
these days,
realize.
I think these days they learn to mention everyone, and they just go, "Oh, the art is nice, the colors are good." Uh,
It's interesting.
the
You said
checklist.
it was kind of like a classic look. I mean, I'm basically just staring at this Luther with hair picture, but your style really reminds me of like Jim Lee, kind of like not exactly the same, but I don't know. Do
I
you
think
is it, would you say that's
I
an
think
influence at all, or?
well, yeah, it's definitely an influence. I don't know if it's main influence in this run, but I think it's more of a Scott Williams's influence on my inks.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see
Uh,
that.
yeah, because I don't know. Hmm, originally for this comic, I was trying to do this like again very sleek, very clean line and style. Because when I worked with Alejandro Sanchez before that, I think it was Batman Superman Annual, and it was very different approach he was doing. It was basically this, classic 2000s style with a lot of rendering and stuff. And now he's more of a like this watercolor approach he's doing, and I had to adjust. I think on our second issue, like my line art became more organic to to fit the colors, I guess.
Hmm. Um, that's interesting. I'm also trying to think. Oh man, this is killing me. But there's another artist I'm trying to think that has kind of a similar style. Man, it's like he was a big Superman artist, like kind of in the 2000s. He kind of drew Superman in a similarly like exaggerated proportions.
Ed
Um,
McGuinness.
yes, that's who I was. Yeah, yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah,
Ed McGuinness.
yeah, he's definitely an influence when it comes to Superman. I think he's my probably favorite Superman artist.
That's interesting. I
Uh,
mean, I'm not a huge Ed McGuinness fan, but I see it. It's like, super exaggerated proportions.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, almost, I see almost like it's almost like cartooning a little bit, but I
Yeah,
don't want
yeah.
to, I'm like
I
lecturing
think
you about like,
I
the
think
style of it.
I'm basically going into that direction, maybe with slightly more realistic proportions, but basically from the same ballpark. And I
Yeah, I
know
see
the
that.
other big one for me, like in terms of Superman, is, I hope I pronounce it correctly, Alir Amancio. He was drawing the back half of Superman Adventures, when they were doing the comic adaptations of the
Of
animation
the
stuff
anime. Oh,
they were doing.
interesting.
Yeah, and those were huge comics for me because in Russia they were publishing, I guess, the Panini license from Italy in the early 2000s, and they were basically in the same issue. There were two issues. One, Batman Gotham Adventures, the animated series stuff, and the other one is Superman Adventures. So you have two uh, comics about Batman and Superman in kind of similar style, and uh, so it was Tim Levens on Batman, like very sleek, very clean style, and Alira Mancio on Superman, which was kind of it was very interesting because he was drawing the animated Superman, but with clear Kirby influence.
Hmm.
So I mean, maybe in the way he was shading stuff or like the line quality, it was very interesting. So yeah, he's another big Superman guy for me.
That's interesting because both of those, I'm sure, have like a Bruce Timm style to them, and yet
Oh yeah.
they're not Bruce Timm. They're doing it, you know what I mean? They're doing it their own way, I'm sure.
Mhm.
So it's just interesting that like, like did you watch those cartoons at all?
Yeah, yeah.
You did? Okay.
I think it was a little bit later because of I don't know. I think they started showing them on Russian TV a little bit later than all the Marvel stuff. Like I watched X-Men and Superman, or X-Men and Spider-Man way before that. But yeah, those cartoons, like I still watch Superman while worked just to catch
Oh,
the vibe,
interesting.
you know.
Everybody loves like Batman the animated series, and obviously I
Mhm.
do too, but like I really like Superman the animated series. It's interesting that you watch it while you're working. Like I like it a lot. I feel like it's a little underrated, you know?
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
I feel like some of the best Superman stories are actually in that show. Like I really like
And you
that
know,
character. Sorry.
the comics the comics they're just like that, so they're basically the best Superman comics you'll ever read, their best
Interesting.
Batman
Yeah.
comics you'll ever read, because on Batman and on Superman, like it's the same team working on basically every issue. So you have consistency. You have uh, uh, like every issue is a one shot. Basically, there's no even two parts. I guess maybe in Superman, but not in
Right. Yeah.
Batman.
Every issue is a self-contained story of
Mhm.
like a beginning, middle, and an end. So it's sort of satisfying just for that.
Yeah, you don't really see that on in modern comics, at least not on major titles.
I wish you would though, to be honest with you. Like
Yeah,
I
I
would love a
guess
Superman book where just every issue is just like a story just there and you don't, you could just pick one up and that's it. Like, you know?
yeah, yeah,
I guess it doesn't make sense. Like, if you think about it, it doesn't make sense for their business model because it's like they want you to buy more. So if I could just buy one and be satisfied, like it doesn't, I guess I see where they're coming from. It doesn't really make sense for them. Like they want you to buy the next one. So I
well,
get where they're
probably
coming from.
I guess you can do both if you're really good at writing those, because you can you can show some of the global story stuff, and you still can make an issue like the finished story. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was
So
trying to look up sorry. Go ahead.
uh, I was just trying to say maybe it's like the modern version of this is those mini arcs we're working on. Like it's three
Hmm.
or two issues. It's basically
Hmm.
well, not the same thing, but it's close. Like you can read all three of my issues without reading anything else from the round or from this run, and you will understand everything.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, it sounds like I wasn't really aware of that angle about your run on this, but it sounds like it's like perfect for the kind of people who would listen to this podcast. Like you could just jump in and read it. You don't need to
Mhm.
know about like red kryptonite or whatever, or the bottle city of Kandor, like you don't need to know any of that. You could just jump in, and all you need to know is Superman is a guy from another planet, and Lex Luthor is Elon Musk. That's that's all you
Yep.
need to know, pretty much. But uh, yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this. I'm just thinking about it. Like, so these issues you're talking about, these are like the Mark Miller issues, right? Or some of them, I guess.
Yeah, some of them he was one of the writers.
Right, one of them. Yeah, yeah.
I don't remember who it was. Ivan Zorkin maybe, and I think Scott McCloud made a couple of
Yeah,
issues.
yeah. Scott McCloud, Mark Evanier, Paul Denis, Devin
Mhm.
Grayson, Ty
Yep.
Templeton, all those guys. It's interesting. It was a little bit of a golden age, I think, in my opinion. Those
Yeah.
books.
Totally.
Um, so I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about sort of, your online Twitter uh activity, like your Twitter style. Because it's just as I'm talking to you, I'm kind of struck by just talking to you. You seem very laid back and reserved. But on Twitter, you can often be you're like an assassin, like.
I'm just goofing on Twitter. I
You're just
hope,
goofing.
yeah, I hope no one like really takes it close to heart. But I don't know. I think most people are very different online and in real life.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, with this podcast, I'm kind of sort of trying to merge that for myself. I mean, now, you know what I mean? Now it's I'm not just going to be text in a Twitter post. Like now you're hearing me talk and you're hearing me
Yeah.
be somewhat open and like vulnerable and stuff. So it's a little bit different than just like a tweet that I worked on for 15 minutes, like this is just totally off the cuff. But uh yeah, I mean, you say that you're just goofing and that you hope people don't take it seriously, but like you often kind of make the sort of Twitter online fan world like lose their fucking minds, right? I mean, am I wrong about that? Like
Well,
they go crazy. Like they sometimes they seem like they hate you. Like I don't know. I don't follow every single thing, but am I close there?
well, comic book fans, they're very passionate people, and they're passionate about characters, not exactly the people who make comics.
Right.
That's all I have to say. Well, also, I do have very strong opinions about art in comics, and like maybe I could offend a couple of artists here and there, but I don't know. I don't really want to offend people. I just want like the overall art in comics to be better, myself included. Like I know my shortcomings too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm struggling. I'm trying to think of what was the latest thing that seemed like people have lost their minds about, but it might just be like the latest Scorsese stuff, I guess, which is always seems so
Well,
ridiculous.
yeah, I guess that's an ongoing thing at this point.
Right, right. Yeah, that happens every 3 months. It seems like probably like every 2 months. Scorsese is like, I don't like comic book movies. I think they're bad, and then comic book
Keep asking
right,
him
and
that.
they
I don't know what they expect.
yeah, they keep asking him. So what is he supposed to say? Like, oh, I changed my mind. Now I love him. Like, he's just gonna give you the same answer, and then people are gonna lose their minds again. Um, but so what's your sort of approach to that? I mean, because when I look at your Twitter again on Twitter, you seem fairly ruthless, but then I'm talking to you, and you know what I mean. You seem a lot more reserved just talking to you. But so like, what's your approach to that? You know what I mean? Like, how do you decide
Well,
when?
I don't know if I have some like special approach. I just do whatever I want, and like if we were talking about very specific art things, I would say the same thing here. So I don't know. It's not that I have some like character online persona. Like it's not an actor or anything. I just like mood changes, opinions change. Like I just tweet through this stuff. I don't know. It's only
You
Twitter.
tweet
Like
through it.
yeah,
Yeah, it's only Twitter. I hear you. I mean, I've said before, um, Twitter is pretty much just a huge comment section, except with like high stakes, like except,
yeah.
you could leave a comment that would ruin your whole life like in a second, but ultimately it's just a comment section. Like that's all it is. Like, but
Yep.
I'm trying to get you here, Gleb, to generate some controversy here. Maybe bump up my Patreon numbers a little bit, but I can't quite get you to do it. But no, I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
But
I'm pretty chill these days. Just uh, I'm playing and I'm drawing, and there's no real controversy in comic book Twitter, I guess.
oh, I hear you.
So
When you say
we'll have
playing,
to
what do
wait.
you mean? Like, playing around?
Uh,
You either playing video games or?
yeah, I'm playing video games. I'm playing Lies of P now. It's kind of it's a Soulsborne game about Pinocchio.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, it's like super interesting in terms of visuals and like the whole concept of this. But it's hard as fuck, man.
Huh.
Can I swear? So
Sorry. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I actually put you on
yeah.
mute for a second, or I put my mic on mute for a second because I was going to type in the thing. Lies of P, it's called.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. You can swear. No worries about that. Yeah.
So yeah,
So,
it's basically I'm playing this fucking game because it's hard, but it's very rewarding too. So like it feels good when you like when you're able to defeat those creatures, and then I go and draw pages in peace basically because
yeah, and
like
then you're
these days for me real work is this game.
that's interesting. Like, so that, it's like you're kind of it's rewarding to beat the different parts of the game, but then when you're drawing, it's kind of rewarding too, like to do like a
Yeah.
difficult page. It's kind of
Mhm.
interesting. So I guess Lies of P is probably like Lies of Pinocchio, I guess, or I was gonna say Geppetto, but I just realized Geppetto starts
Yeah,
with a
it's
G.
Pinocchio. Maybe
Okay.
like they don't really call him Pinocchio in the game. They call
Oh,
him
interesting.
P. Maybe it's just puppet, but I don't know. There is Geppetto in the game, so he must be Pinocchio. But I don't know. I'm still, I think, in the middle. So uh, like in every other Soulsborne game, there is a plot, but it's like takes the like the second seat. The main thing in the game is the gameplay and I guess the overall vibe. But it's a great game.
Okay,
I very
interesting.
much enjoyed it.
Interesting. It's sort of like man, I'm way out of my depth here because I'm not like a big gamer. Like I'm still playing Red Dead Redemption,
Mhm.
and No Man's Sky, which I probably am the only person playing it. But uh
I think Z was playing that one too.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I love it. I probably actually will start like streaming it a little bit soon, like once these episodes will start coming out. Like I love it. I'm pretty good at it. And is it's not like Lies of P like you're playing. Like I'm good at it, but there's zero difficulty. It's like, just do whatever you want. So it's not,
Mhm.
it's easy to be good at it. But uh I don't know. Do you think there's like is there a big crossover you think of like comic book artists and just gaming in general?
Uh, I don't know. I guess just everyone's gamer these days. Like I wouldn't call myself a gamer, but I do buy new releases. I do play them. So maybe in a way, I think I don't know. I think if you're a comic book artist, you should seek
Like diverse
things
influences,
to
I guess.
yeah, yes, from other mediums because
Right.
I feel like especially with writers maybe they're all very clearly like I
No,
don't know. It feels like some of them read only comics, you know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, I have to say, I would advise you to just read Spider-Man comics. Don't read any books. Don't watch movies or TV shows. Just read 1960s Stanley Spider-Man comics. That's all you should read. That's what I to anyone who would compete with me, that's what I would recommend to you to do. No, I'm
Right.
kidding, obviously. But that's interesting though. Like what would you say like kind of like are you one of these guys who was reading comic books like since you were young or like did you get into it as an adult? Like what were the early comic book influences for you?
I think I started read them at 11.
Okay, so
I
pretty young.
prob yeah, I was aware of comics. Like I don't know where I learned about them, but I started reading them at 11 because I remember seeing them when I was on vacation with my mom, and like it was 2003, I think, and they about around that time they started publishing Ultimate Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, all
Right.
those like series of that time in Russia, and I was like, wow, what the hell is that? It looks amazing. So I think my first artist like I've ever seen was like in terms of comics, in terms of comic books, was John Romita Jr. And
Hmm.
you probably can see the influence in my work too.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, I mean, I could see it now that you mentioned it. I mean, that's interesting. Obviously, John Romita Jr., one of the all-time greats. I mean, that's a great thing to start
Mhm.
reading on. I guess so. That was probably like the J. Michael Straczynski Spider-Man stuff. I guess
Yeah.
you were reading.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
What's his name? Morlun. Is that right?
Yeah. I think
Classic
the
character.
first issue I bought was about the guy who was trying to replicate
Right.
Doc Ock's tentacles.
Oh yeah, that's
And
right. Yeah. I thought you were going
so
to say
yeah,
something else, but yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. I thought you were going to
so yeah,
mention there was this guy who I forget what this is even from, but there was a guy who saw Peter Parker got bit by a radioactive spider, and so he ate the spider because he thought somehow that would help him become like Spider-Man, but then it just turned him into like a ghoulish like spider monster guy. I thought that's what you were
yeah,
gonna say,
some,
but I
there
forget
was
what
something
the
like that too.
I think that's probably from Tangled Web, I think, which was like almost like it's like an anthology series of Spider-Man stories, kind of like Black Mirror, but for Spider-Man. But that's interesting though. I mean, you have kind of a different experience from, a lot of people who are going to be listening to this. So it's like you grew up in Russia, so it's not quite the same as in America. Like did they even like the experience of reading comics over there has got to be completely different, like because it's obviously a different culture, like I don't even know, like it's hard for me to even conceive of, like um are comics
Yeah,
readily available over there?
they were just starting publishing a lot of comics. Well, not a lot, but they were starting back then. Like at the same time that I was started reading them, I think, uh, there were no DC stuff as far as I remember.
Hmm.
Maybe some JLA comic, but yeah, they published maybe 10 issues or so, and like it died. But my favorite one was Gen 13. They were publishing this one,
Oh,
and it was like it was very different from Spider-Man, obviously, like in various ways. So yeah, and then in 2004, I think they published two first books from the Hellboy series, and that was huge for me because like I've never seen art like that before, and like that was the coolest thing for me. And
hmm.
also, I guess to cut some costs. I don't know. They published it black and white, and for a couple of years, I thought Hellboy is a black and white book.
Okay, to cut
Yeah.
costs, yeah, it was in black and white. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've probably mentioned this in the podcast before, but I grew up reading these Marvel Essentials, which are like these like phone book sized, thick volumes. So they're all in black and white. So I kind of, obviously I'm not an artist or whatever, but I kind of like, sympathize with that experience because it's like, I was
Yeah, I
reading these
remember
in
seeing
black.
those. I think I had X-Men. I don't remember, like something from the late 80s with
Okay, yeah, like the
early
Claremont.
Romita Jr. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe
Well, it was Romita Jr. at that time.
yeah, some Sylvester stuff, I guess,
So that must have been
like
early
that.
for him, for Ramita.
Yeah, he wasn't there quite yet in terms of style, but you still could see that it's his stuff.
it's so interesting. It's like this is a guy who's a second generation comic book artist. I mean, I imagine if you look at his earlier stuff, you could probably see his father's influence on him. It wasn't quite, it wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
quite sorry.
If you look at his early stuff, you basically see all those 70s, 60s artists, and like no original no original style, I guess. It was all just a mishmash of this and that. But I don't know. I don't know when exactly he uh, found his own voice, but I think it's around that Juggernaut comics, maybe,
Huh.
uh, or maybe Daredevil.
Yeah, I
I don't
was
know.
thinking probably Daredevil, but I wouldn't claim to be the biggest expert about that. But yeah, like the Frank Miller Daredevil,
I
Frank
think
Miller
even earlier with Innocenti,
with what?
with Innocenti.
Oh, yes,
Uh,
yes, yes, yes. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. With Ann
mhm.
Nocenti. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. Just interesting. It's like imagine, like if you have a kid and then he becomes like, Gleb Jr. It's like, you know what I mean? He's like, then he has at first his style looks like you, and then he has his own. It's just like a bizarre thing to imagine. Like, you know, are there going to be third generation comic book artists? Like, it's just crazy to think of like that weird, like an artist dynasty sort of.
Yeah,
But
but I don't know. Honestly, I like him a lot more than his father, and I love his father's stuff. But for me, the junior is way more interesting.
yeah, I mean, I'd say, that's probably like a common opinion, I think, probably. But I love John Romita Sr., I guess. Didn't he like die recently? I think like only
Yeah, I think so.
only about like a month ago or so. Whenever, I said this on an earlier podcast, but whenever these guys die, I'm like, how can John Romita just die? Like, what do you like, like
Yeah,
I know that's a stupid thing to say, but it's just I don't know. These guys seem like they're just like, legends to me. It's like it would be like if Zeus died, like you know what I mean? Like, how could he just die? But, I'm aware that's a stupid thing to think. Of course,
no, I
everyone
get it. I get it.
dies. But yeah, so you feel like like the spider, like those early they're not early, but those John Romita Jr. Spider-Man and J. Michael Straczynski books, like that was an early thing for you. Hellboy, it's interesting. I feel like there's a lot of Russian artists who like love Hellboy. Like would you say that's true?
Well, yeah, that's probably because of the same thing. We were
Because it
growing
just,
up
yeah.
with the same comics, and uh, mm, I think around the time they published the first Sin City comic too, so that was huge as well.
Oh,
Basically,
interesting.
they weren't publishing a lot of stuff, so you could probably buy every comic they published in Russia at the time, and I did. And they were trying to publish some manga too. So one of my, I think my first manga was Ranma by Rumiko Takahashi, and I think it's still my favorite manga because of that. So again, a huge influence on me, especially in terms of choreographing the fight scenes.
Huh. That's interesting that there were a limited amount of comic books published in Russia and they came out at a certain time. So like this sort of like Russian comic book artist community has like sort of similar influences because it's like that's all you could get. So it's like there's not as wide a spectrum of stuff as there might be in other places because it's sort of it's like that's
Well,
all that was.
at least in terms of like published books, but there was also a huge pirate scene of those
Oh,
stuff.
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
So you could read
You could get
you know,
anything online.
well, basically yes. I don't know. They they were translating stuff online. So like I wasn't very good with English, so I was reading stuff online with fan translations
Hmm.
for a long time.
So like if you were to read a comic book, let's just say you had a comic book, like you don't speak English and there's a comic book that's totally in English, like would you have a problem just like, okay, I'm just going to look at the art, like, you know what I mean? Like
Oh
do you even
no,
necessarily
no,
care? Like,
of course, I flipped through a lot of stuff, especially with like big two comics because it's like whatever. It's a Spider-Man comic. I can figure out what's going on.
right, yeah.
So yeah. Also, just when you discover some new artists like through the published comics in Russia, you just trying to find other works by him or her online, and you don't really care about you don't really care about writing exactly in those comics. So Chris Bachalo was a big one for me.
Okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
what?
So
What? Yeah, who is? Did you say someone after that?
no, I said, and he still is, and
Oh yeah,
so I think I read uh, steampunk and maybe yeah, I think steampunk was a big comic for me, like in terms of
steampunk.
pirates that come, yeah,
Oh yeah,
uh,
I'm not familiar with that.
with Joe Kelly. It was like there when they
Okay,
formed
yeah, yeah,
Cliffhanger, so it
yes,
was one of those comics.
interesting, yeah.
But basically, I liked everything they made a cliffhanger. Maybe Danger Girl not so much because it's just a little bit different style for me. But like Madureira, Ramos, and Bachalo, those three were huge for me in terms of. mm, well, in terms of just the atmosphere of their comics of that time.
Hmm. It's kind of funny. A couple days ago, someone tweeted a picture of Chris Bachalo. Is that how you pronounce his name? Bachalo? I don't really know, but
Yeah, I
someone
know it.
tweeted at me a picture of him when he was younger and said that he like looks just like me.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
I've
don't
seen it.
know. I did not respond, but I did click like. So I don't know. To take that for what it's worth, I guess.
I think it's the hair.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. I don't know. I think my hair is better than his, but I also can't draw, so he's the one who's really winning. But his place in history is assured. But it's interesting you don't like Danger Girl because I would kind of see that as a similar
Well, it's not
thing.
that I don't like it. It's just it's like compared to those other three artists, Campbell was a little bit too. I don't know. I don't want to say boring because he definitely wasn't a boring artist at that time, but just I guess it was a little bit more realistic, less stylized maybe, and I was really gravitating towards like these uh like huge proportions,
Right, more exaggerated.
big hands, yeah, big feet,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
stuff like that.
How do you feel about like Rob Liefeld is famously had crazy proportions, like there's obviously the famous Captain America cover where his chest is like, 6 feet, wide or whatever.
Well, the interesting thing is that it wasn't a cover; it was some promo
Oh,
piece. I think in Wizard,
oh, okay.
and
Interesting.
just I think internet doesn't know about that.
Right.
But I don't know. Liefeld is hit or miss for me, but that exact era of Captain America, I do really like that, and I do love. I basically love his mid-90s stuff because he was trying to do something, and now he's just kind of lazy.
Hmm. Is like, would you say like
He
Midnighter stuff?
mid-90s.
Oh, mid 90s. Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's
So
when he was obviously probably
I
at
think
his peak,
I
right?
think he was also very interesting at the beginning of the 90s on his X-Force stuff because you could uh, you could totally see him going another route, and like he could be a respectable indie artist if he wanted to.
Hmm.
Like because of his style, like uh, if he kept the same style from the X Force and was doing way more I don't know, underground experimental comics, he was a celebrated artist at this point. But I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, he could have gone more of like comics with an X and been like, he could have
Mm-hmm.
gone really weird with it and less mainstream. But in a way, he kind of did become like an indie superstar in the sense of like creating Image and doing the books that he did there. Like, I guess technically that's Image, but or I'm sorry, technically that's indie, but we don't really think of it like that because Image made so much goddamn money at that time.
Yeah,
We don't think of it like it's indie, but like technically on paper it is indie, but uh who could blame him, right? I mean, he made millions and millions of
yeah.
dollars. Like,
No. He made 100% correct choice. So more power to him.
yeah, definitely, yeah. Rob Liefeld, when I did the first Holy West Kickstarter, like he like retweeted it, which was like huge for me.
Oh
So
yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I refuse to say bad things about Rob Liefeld. I don't care. I don't care about the feet. I don't care that he doesn't draw feet. I don't care. That's fine. He can do whatever he wants. That's my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. But um, that's interesting though. I mean, so you would say, so would you say Liefeld is like a bit of an influence, or
Kinda, yeah. I think his Captain America basically was one of my favorite comics of that era when I was pirating them. So
so
yeah,
I guess that was probably like the Heroes Reborn, which like for people
yeah,
who
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know, Heroes Reborn was kind of like Marvel rebooted all their characters and titles like in sort of a new universe, and they had all their hottest artists at the time like Rob Liefeld, for instance, like working on that. That's right, it was Heroes Reborn.
I think they basically outsourced it to Image. Like
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
even
they
even
got
in terms of money and hiring power and everything like that. So it was because they were on the brink of
bankruptcy.
uh, yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean that it's just so wild to think about at that time. So like Marvel is on the brink of bankruptcy, which is like for people who don't know that much about comics, just that is like a mind-blowing fact that in the 90s Marvel was
You know
like
what's also mind blowing is that Jim Lee almost bought it.
almost bought Marvel itself.
Yes,
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, I hadn't heard that before. He should have done it. Like
he wanted
he would
to.
have been a billionaire.
He wanted to. It's just there was some I don't remember what happened, but Liefeld was talking about that on his podcast, and it's very
Okay.
interesting because he was talking about all those things were happening at the time, and it's very
Ah,
eye opening.
see, like you say that now, and you're like, Liefeld was talking about it. Well, how do I know now? Like maybe Liefeld was just like, kind of talking
No, no,
shit a
no.
little bit. Like,
I don't know. I did not have that impression because he was basically just he like on his podcast he wasn't talking about those things in terms of I like that or I just like that. He was just stating facts basically from the outside perspective because he was watching all those guys.
okay, interesting. I guess his podcast is called Robservations. And
Yeah.
Rob, if you ever hear this, do not be mad at me. I'm sorry. I said you might have been talking shit. I'm sorry. Please don't be mad at me. But that's interesting. I mean, I should probably listen to that. I'm sure he has like a lot of interesting stuff to say. Like that guy just had like a crazy life just to be there at that time. And he was
Yeah.
like, what, like how old was he when he really blew up? Like 20? Like,
Yeah, I think so. I think on X Force, when he started X Force, he was basically 19. So that's mind blowing.
so crazy. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's really interesting perspective too, because you see all those people saying, ah, he's a shit artist, he can't draw. And you're like, damn, you're talking about 19-year-old kid. Of course he
yeah,
can't draw.
yeah. Like, I also had, I'm not an artist, obviously, but writing has some similarities where I really feel like, you know, why don't you try to do it? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're on the internet talking shit, like, artists, they have so much to lose, and they put their whole lives on the line, and it's like they give it everything they've got, and like some guy in the internet could just be like, ah, you don't draw feet. Like, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not the
which which
hugest,
isn't
sorry.
even which isn't even true actually. If you see all those comments, he looks weird feet. He draws weird feet.
Right,
Like that's the
right,
thing. But he draws them.
right. Yeah. And that's, I guess they're probably thinking of like, he doesn't draw them on covers. And I think I've seen him made the argument that what do you want me to do? It doesn't make sense for the feet to be in this shot. Like, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
would not, it's not framing the shot
Uh,
correctly.
I think all those guys from Nights from Image, they also cribbing Mignola because he was drawing all those guys in on cemeteries and stuff like that, and there was like always fog around and like mist, and you couldn't see those feet, and they were just aping those stuff without really putting any thought. Uh, I don't know, maybe.
Right. Yeah. And didn't Mignola, like, wasn't he on X Force actually? Like,
Oh
maybe.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
did one issue with Rob's with his layouts, I guess.
Oh, interesting. Rob laid it out.
Yeah,
Interesting. I mean, I imagine part of that is, you gotta, I imagine deadlines at that time were probably even harder than they are now, with like less understanding from editors or whatever. And it's like, if you got to make an issue come out every month, throw some smoke and steam around, and like,
yeah,
it makes it, they're like little tricks to make it easier to like do
yeah,
an
one hundred
issue, or
percent.
like, yeah, you don't have to
Yeah, no,
draw a whole complicated background, just have like
no,
dramatic smoke.
there was the art to it back then. Now it's just throw some I don't know, SketchUp models and maybe some you can trace something. I don't know.
Get some AI art background in there.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's definitely like it's not clever, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. So how do you? I mean, I'm kind of like bringing up a different topic now, I guess. So, like, how do you feel about like all the AI art stuff? Like, what I mean, I think it's safe to assume you don't like it. Obviously, I mean,
Well, I hate it obviously, but
right, of
I don't know.
course.
I don't feel like it's gonna be a big problem in comics specifically because well, first of all, there's not a lot of money in comics to do all that stuff,
Right, yeah,
and second of all, I don't know. I don't know. Comics are just different beast, I guess. You can't just generate a bunch of images and put them together and make. I mean, you can, but it will read as good
right.
as real.
It'll be crap. Yeah, I
You
mean,
can you can see that when like some maybe video game company want to make some comics with their characters and they're trying to do them they're trying to make them with their own like in-house artists who are good artists but they're not comic book artists, and you see basically the same thing, pretty pictures without like any eye flow, without any real storytelling.
right. Yeah, I mean, to make a comic book page, it's not just like if you have 8 panels on a page. It's not just like 8 pictures. Like, it's not 8 independent pictures arranged together like, puzzle pieces.
Yeah,
It's like
and
the
like
whole page is designed as like a
the thing
cohesive
is
unit.
you can't you can learn that if you're human, like all those video game artists, they can learn that and they can become better. But I don't know if
Right.
AI understands the concept of that, because it's basically it's a subconscious thing. Like when I lay out pages, I don't really think about that, but they do read like as I want them to read, because it's just a passive skill now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a language. It's like its own language. Like it's sort of like there's
Mhm.
a grammar of it. With on my side of things, like writing stuff, obviously I worry about chat GPT. Like I don't want it
Yeah.
to replace me or whatever. But when it comes to comic books, I actually feel like comic book writers can feel pretty okay, because there's a big difference between like if I had to write an essay for college, chat
Mhm.
GPT would be very good at it. But if you're writing a comic book script and you're writing like all these different panels and the way that they um interact with each other, I guess, the way that the panels on the page work together as like a cohesive page, like AI definitely can't do that right now. Like
Yeah.
it can't make a comic book script right now. Like because just doing panel layouts, and which is not my number one thing, obviously, because like I'm a writer. Like I do that to some degree. Like I'll attach sketches of like the kind of panel layout that I want, but ultimately, of course, I trust the artist to do whatever the fuck they're gonna do, and it's like they're the expert on that, not me. But what I'm saying is like AI could write a novel, like because that's just text. But could it write a comic book? Like I don't, not now, not right now. Like, will it be able to in 20 years? Like, yeah, probably. But
But
20.
also why like why do that?
Yeah, I mean, to be absolutely clear to anyone who could get mad at me, I don't like AI writing. Like, I don't want it to replace me. Uh, I feel like I have to be clear about that, because I once made a tweet um where I said something to the effect of artists, writers, and publishers. If you could use an AI that would pump out an Alan Moore level script like in like 5 minutes, like would you do it? And I just like asked that question.
Mhm.
And people got really mad at me, but they kind of missed the point of what I was saying. That was like, there's a reason I said publishers in that list of people, because I was kind of saying like, people totally misinterpreted what I was saying, because I was kind of saying like, yeah, obviously publishers would do it if they could, like obviously they
Yeah.
would. Like I was kind of like people got mad at me, but in the wrong way. Like it should have been publishers who were mad at who were mad at me for even insinuating that, but people kind of missed the point. They were just like, people thought that I was defending AI when in
I guess
reality what I
I
was doing was kind of
I guess
calling
it's
out
just
publishers a little bit.
this just sounds like all those blue check marks tweets like about AI. They're all formed. They're all make them in the form of question. Like
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Listen, it was a stupid tweet, so I can't even defend myself, but I get what you're saying. It sounded like I was advocating for AI, but so that on some level that's my fault that I did a bad tweet, but who among us has not? Am I right, Gleb?
Yeah.
But it's interesting though. I mean, as far as I know, have any publishers actually used like AI art? Like is I want to say that maybe Image has, but I don't want to just say that and then be totally wrong. But do you know of
Uh,
any instances of that?
I don't know for sure, but sometimes you see some covers and you can't help to ask like what's going on here,
Hmm.
because maybe I don't know if they like hire AI artists, quote unquote, but maybe they just overlook the other other
Right.
artists using some AI maybe backgrounds or something like that. And
Right. You're saying they hire an artist to do a cover he or she turns in something and then they're like, okay, it looks good. They didn't, they didn't realize they were getting AI
Yeah.
art or something. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
allegedly.
yeah, of course. I don't, to be clear, like I don't know of any specific instances. I don't want to, I don't want to give anybody a hard time or whatever. I kind of want to start a podcast where it's just actually just called allegedly, and then I just say like wildly irresponsible shit the whole time, and I'm just like, the whole podcast is just allegedly. But as a general rule of thumb, anything we say here is satire and parody. So
Yes.
do not be mad at us, no matter what happens. That is a number one rule here. But it's interesting though. I've always kind of felt, since I was young, um, if I'm lucky, I have 25 years, and then it'll be like artificial intelligence will be good enough to like do what I do, like in like do what takes me a month to do in like 5 minutes. I just didn't think it would happen like now. I thought it would happen when I was like 60. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, okay, I've had my whole life to have a career. Now robots are replacing me. All right, that's fine. I've had my whole life. Like, okay, I'm done now. Like, what, fine. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think it would happen when I was relatively young,
Yeah.
but I don't really think, it's like I look at your artwork and like there's definitely nothing in terms of AI art, there's nothing that's like even getting close to this. Like, and like you said, they can't make like panel layouts, like just can't do it. Like I guess you'd have to do prompts for like individual panels and then like stitch them together. And that's not
Also, I
like
think it's just AI is like this novelty now, but uh, people want people's art. Like they want to, they don't want to read AI comics because like it's not interesting. Why would you want to read some artificial stuff when you want to? Well, you can read something made by humans.
Yeah, I mean, what scares me though is that I think there are a lot of people out there who would be like, who would totally disagree with what you just said and be like, "What? I no, I want to read, made by a robot." Like, like I think there's plenty of
Well,
people who
they
would think
say
that.
that, and they can read like a couple things before it gets sold, and then they're like, okay, uh, I got the gist. Now back to real stuff.
Yeah, I mean, when did you like really start seriously like drawing? Like, like so you've probably been drawing from a very young age, right?
Yeah, I was drawing like for my whole life, as far as I can tell, maybe even before comics. So
Interesting.
it's just when uh, I discovered comics, I instantly knew that I want to do that. So I started working towards like the comic book style and everything. And I
So
don't know, it's weird because
you were already into art, you were already drawing, and then you
Mhm.
discovered comics and you were like, holy shit. And you felt like, so this is around the age of 11, you would say, you were just like, yeah, I
Yep.
want to be a comic book artist. Like you knew then, you think?
Yeah, yeah, and there wasn't like a job for like comic book artists in Russia back then,
Right.
but
There's
I know
barely one like that here.
yeah, but I don't know. It doesn't. It didn't seem to me like impossible to me even at that age because, uh, like I knew there's the internet. I knew like you can like it's doable. It didn't seem like impossible. Like you can learn to draw. You can draw comics from Russia, like working on American comics. Even at 11, like it sounded pretty pretty possible. I don't know. So I guess I never worried, and I was just working toward my goal.
It's interesting. You read these tweets for people who are like pro AI art, and they say things like, oh, like, I never had the time or the ability to like work
Yeah, yeah.
hard to get good at art. And like now there's this thing that like makes me good. So like, how dare you like, like take, I'm just curious, like from your perspective, you're like, okay, I've been
Well,
working on becoming a good artist since I was like a child, like,
yeah,
like
it's always insane to read those tweets from Tech Bros. Like, you're privileged
you're
you're privileged
privileged.
because you're like you can draw. I was like, damn, like I was working. You can too. Like you can buy a pen and you can start drawing and you can learn. Like, what's the problem here exactly? Like, you can draw. It's a break. What can I say?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm this is a little bit of seems like it's not going to be related, but I'm really into ping pong, like table tennis, and like
Mhm.
I'm like really into it. Like I'm getting pretty good. I wouldn't say I'm like pro level, obviously, not even close, but I'm better than I'm willing to bet money anybody listening to this right now. But it's like this thing where it's like, yeah, you don't start off day one and you're just really good. It like takes years and years of like practice. It's like just like anything else, just like writing or anything else. I probably suck at podcasting right now because I haven't had years of practice of it. But um I don't know. I just maybe you could talk about that a little bit. Like, what do you do if you're okay? I'm a young kid and I want to become a comic book artist. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? Like, you just study because it's not the same as just studying art, right? Like, if I want to make a painting, like that's just one image. It's not the same. You know what I mean? Like, making a comic book page requires a
Mm,
totally different skill
well,
set than
yeah,
just making one image.
you're right actually, because I just remembered that I did train it as a two different skill sets basically. So I was drawing and I was drawing layouts, and when I was drawing layouts, it was like a bunch of print paper, and I was drawing like I was just cranking up pages without thinking about anatomy or lines or anything. Like it was basically thumbnails, because
Hmm.
what was goal here is to make it flow, I guess.
To make the layouts like read
Yeah.
well.
Yes.
Interesting. Like
Yes.
so like what age was this, you would say? Like still relatively young?
Yeah, I think it's like first maybe 2 3 years were very uh I leveled up a lot from, I guess, 11 to 13, because I was drawing every day for like many hours.
Huh. So have you had like any like wrist injury, like if you had like any like injuries or like sort of like health problems from like, you know,
No, I
drawing a
don't
long
think
time?
so.
Like you don't have like hand pain or anything like that?
No, I don't really I don't remember having any type of problems like that.
Okay, interesting. So like what would you say to like a young artist? Just like draw a shitload of pages. Like is that the thing to do, you think?
Well, yeah, just draw. Remember to have fun and remember to analyze what you're doing. That's basically three main things.
Did you go to
Mm.
like any kind of like art school or anything?
Uh, I was in like well, how do you call it? Like a college for years. I was studying graphic design, but uh, besides that, no. Like I basically taught myself.
Okay, interesting. You're like mostly self-taught. Like, so would you
Mhm.
recommend that? Like going to like an art school or something?
Uh, I think I don't know. I don't think it's necessary, but it wouldn't hurt to. So it's basically, I don't know. I enjoyed art school. I enjoy. like the college because basically mostly because of the social component of that. But I don't know. I think if you have an opportunity, you should go.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I
But
agree
but
with
but
you that sorry.
but if you don't have an opportunity, like don't worry about it. You can talk yourself. Like it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Especially in this day and age with when you can find any answer on YouTube, like in terms of how to draw things, and that's why like now kids draw better than like better than us. Like you can see like some you can discover some amazing artists through Twitter, and like you uh, you stalk them and you found out that they're like 18 or something. Like
right. Yeah.
holy
I mean,
shit.
I was gonna
No,
say, sorry, go ahead.
no, I just want to say that I never feel jealous of them. Like it's one of my no, seriously, because I have a lot of artist friends who's like, don't you hate it when you discover like how young they are? I was like, no, why would you? Why would I hate it? It's like one of my uh, favorite things, like discovering new exciting artists. Like, so what? Yeah, they younger than us, they draw better. Like it's a good thing, you can learn from them, you can like, well, what are we talking here?
That's cool, man. I mean, you have a good attitude. I mean, you know, my attitude is more any writer that's younger than me, I hate you. I want you to fail. No, I'm kidding. But I think that's a good attitude to have. I mean, I was just gonna say before, yeah, I mean, it's a crazy era we live in now. Like you said, you could just be on YouTube, like, someone I could think of just off the top of my head. I think like Daniel Warren Johnson just has like videos on YouTube of him drawing, and
Mm-hmm.
he's probably talking about it too as he's doing it. And it's like that's huge where I don't even know
it,
what you would do if it was like
I,
1992.
th- I
Like,
think even Jim Lee has a Twitch channel now. That
oh,
would be
that's
crazy in like 1992. Imagine that.
yeah, I mean, that would be fucking I mean, the closest you could do is some of those image guys did like a weird video with Stan Lee. Um,
Oh yeah, I
you
remember
remember
those.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be like Todd McFarlane drawing Venom or whatever. And, like Stan Lee is like, oh wow, that's really something. Like as if Stan Lee knows anything about Venom or like drawing in general. But
Yeah, they had to draw with pet markers on paper because of like the TV
right,
cameras couldn't.
it wouldn't show up on the camera, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I want to just like I'm working on it. It's too early to show people, but I need to perfect my Stan Lee impression so I could just pull it up on the podcast. Like it's not even close right now, but I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna get it dialed in, and then I'm just gonna whip out a perfect Stan Lee like periodically. But which is a whole different topic that I've talked about in this podcast a couple times. Like, people have different feelings about Stan Lee, obviously. That's like a whole thing in the comic book world of like comic book artists versus comic book writers is like periodic topic that comes up seems like every couple months, similar to the Martin Scorsese thing. It's just like
Yeah.
one of these topics that comes up. Also, is Alan Moore bad or is he good? It's like that seems like that's the three things that comes up in the comic book world, like with like clockwork.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, man? Comic book artists or comic book writers? Well, if you had to choose.
Well, obviously I'm on the artist side, but like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm just kidding, obviously. I don't, what are you gonna say in response to that? But it is an interesting era now where it's like, in some ways, like the comic book industry is very hard, but in other ways, it's like you said, you could find some kid on Twitter who is like a fucking genius, and there's a new person like every day, it seems like, and there's just thousands of people out there who like are incredibly, I mean, I'm kind of like on your side that it's like it's exciting that it's like, yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be um like jealous or like, irritated at these people who are coming up, because it's like just incredible that it's like we live in kind of an amazing time. Like I'm talking to you, like you grew up in Russia, like I don't know where you're living right now, but it's like we're probably thousands and thousands of miles away. Like we're having this conversation about comic books. Like,
Mhm.
how would this happen in 1995? Like we'd fucking like write each other letters, like
Yeah.
it wouldn't happen. Like uh the best you could do is probably like, okay, I'm gonna write a letter into Wizard magazine. Which, by the way, do they have that in Russia?
No, no. But
No Wizard.
again, like I was aware of Wizard, but I never had any of those.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, and there's no real like, why would you like pirate that or whatever? It doesn't make sense. There's no reason to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it was also like a little bit after their. No, I don't know.
I
When did
mean,
they finish? Like,
I'm not sure when they finished, but
I think that just by that time they were like switched more towards like movies and stuff. Like it wasn't really that
yeah,
exciting
yeah.
as their 90s stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, they went to like 2011, but I think you're absolutely right that it was like, more like comic book movie coverage and that sort of
Mhm.
thing, like rather than like heavy comic book devoted stuff. Is there anything that's like a Russian equivalent to that? Like, is there like, can you tell me anything
Mm.
sort of about like the
Uh,
Russian world of comic books?
I mean, the equivalent of Wizard? No, I don't think so. But there is there's a big publisher, I guess, who runs like multiple ongoings, and they're I guess it's just because like the editor in chief is like the son of big media tycoon, so that's that. But yeah, we have like at least one big publisher who publishes, I guess, Russian mainstream comics like
Okay,
that.
what's that called?
It's called Bubble.
Bubble. Okay,
Hmm. They made a
interesting.
movie like a couple of years ago, even. So
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
I guess they're doing good. I made a couple comics for them too because like in Russia it was like one of the only comic book jobs with like
Interesting.
money in it.
Yeah, I mean, so where do you live now, if I could ask you? You don't live in Russia currently, right?
No, no, now I'm living in Georgia. Like I mean country, not not the state.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Do you mind if I ask? Like, this is kind of like a touchy subject or whatever, like, but like, when did you move out of Russia? Like, does it have anything to do with like the like ongoing like Russia-Ukraine war stuff? Or like, you know what I
Oh
mean? Is
yeah,
like,
well, yeah, obviously. Well, I moved from Russia, like with my girlfriend to live in Minsk in Belarus, like in 2019 maybe,
okay. So like
and
even
then
before the war.
yeah, but we moved to Georgia when the war started because, well,
Right. Because like
first of
Belarus
all,
is like,
well,
like
well,
still
yeah, yeah. It's technically the other country, but like it's basically only on paper, maybe.
right.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, when the war started, like first of all, we were scared of mobilization, and the second of all is all the bunks started to uh, like they were getting like I guess blocked from the Swift system, so I couldn't even get paid for my DC
Right.
comics for like a couple months. So
That's
yeah,
so
we had
crazy.
Yeah, we had to move here, and we had to like
That-
basically start over again. But no,
That's
what are you gonna
interesting.
do?
Yeah, I mean, just interesting to think about. Uh, I've kind of seen like this stuff going on with Russia through a different lens because I know there's a ton of like Russian comic book artists who are not, I think you could say like Artyom Trakhanov, for instance, or like,
Hmm.
pretty much like fairly openly like anti-Putin or whatever. And then like this war breaks out and it's like there's no way to pay them, like you can't pay someone through PayPal. Now PayPal is cut off. Like I actually
Yeah,
wanted to ship comic books to Artyom. It's like the United States post office, there's no you can't they don't ship to Russia anymore. Like I can't
yeah.
send anything to Russia. Like um and,
So I
uh
guess yeah, we all moved out of Russia. Artem, I think he's in Serbia now.
yeah,
The other Artem, he's in Armenia.
right,
So
Artyom
yeah,
Topolin.
yeah.
The other Artyom.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. You could just stop me if you don't want to talk about this kind of thing. You're not comfortable or whatever. But from my perspective, it's like, you grew up in Russia in the 90s, and I guess you probably were born like right after like the Soviet Union like
Yeah,
collapsed, I guess, or I don't even know if that's the correct word, like
yeah,
ended.
yeah. I guess I born in the like wildest times because it was very hard to live back then in Russia. Like as far as I know, there were mass suicides, and well, because of the inflation, because of the crime wave, all that thing. So
Wow.
yeah,
And it's just crazy to think like, so your parents just grew up totally, they just grew up in the Soviet Union, obviously.
yeah,
So like, if do they ever talk about that? That it's like, life must have
well,
been completely different from their whole lives. Then suddenly, like 1991, and it's like you're now in a new country, kind of.
I guess, yeah, but I don't know. They're saying that the 80s were good because it's basically, well, I think it's just because they were kids back then. Uh, I don't know how really good life was
Right.
back
Yeah.
then. I guess the 80s were kind of like okay, but especially compared to the 90s, because the 90s were uh, extremely tough. But again, for me, like maybe for them, like the early thousands were basically the second 80s. It were all
Interesting.
good. Like before, before 2008, when like again the economic crisis, and
Hmm.
yeah.
So like, it's interesting you say that because like, you know, I just want to say also like I am literally an idiot. Like I don't know what I'm talking about. Like I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Like I am like your typical American that I have a very surface level knowledge of this. So I'm just putting that out there up front so people listening understand that you're listening to a total moron. But uh would you say like in the 2000s, sort of like when Putin like came to power, like a lot of people like him for that reason that you're just saying, that like it's like was kind of like the 80s again. It was like kind of like it was prosperity, I guess, is the reason why the people who
Yeah,
like
I
him do
guess
like
they
him.
saw the promise of the new like maybe more comfortable life. But uh well, I was a kid back then, and a lot of people were idiots. So but also a lot of people saw through him. So
Hmm.
I don't think it was like I think a lot of people knew from the beginning like how it's gonna end.
Hmm. You're saying a lot of people were trying to say like this is bad, this is a bad guy, but they kind of
Oh yeah,
like,
like you can I mean on Russian YouTube you can find like some stuff from TV from that time period when you can see the politicians who basically saying like in 20 years you're gonna regret all the stuff because it's gonna be like authoritarian stuff and
hmm,
it's like they're predicting like everything
right.
like what's
Everything that
happening now
happened.
and now it is happening and they're dead so
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about it, it kind of sounds similar to like the Iraq War in America, where it's like there are
yeah
plenty of people
basically
saying, well, why it was bad and what was going to happen, and
the
uh,
same I think yeah.
it's not like nobody knew that it was bad. Like people kind of misremember it, or they think like, oh, everybody wanted to do it. Like, well, no, there were plenty of people who objected. Like,
Mm-hmm.
off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure Bernie Sanders, like throughout, was on record as voting against it and stuff. But um, yeah, I mean, it's just I feel as I talk to you about this, I just like you mentioned like privilege before about the AI art. Like, I just feel like an overwhelming sense of privilege, like to talk to you about this. You know, it's like um almost like like your country is like taken from you or whatever. Like, I don't know if that's it feels ridiculous to bring up comic books in the context of that, but like, is that something that like, influences you, I guess, that it's you know what I mean? Like, probably in a perfect world, you wouldn't want to live in Georgia, right?
uh, well maybe I don't know I actually really like it here. It's like a
Okay, all right.
paradise, but
It's like
yeah, of
paradise.
course. Well, it's basically I don't know. It's very it's a tourist place, so like it's people are going here to vacation. So yeah, it's a good place to live. But yeah, of course, I would love to return to Russia at some point. But yeah, I guess not in foreseeable future.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I can't see it. I guess it would have to be like a radical, essentially a revolution would probably have to happen in order for that to happen, I guess.
Yeah,
Which is like, well, I don't know. I was gonna say it's probably not gonna happen, but what the fuck do I know? Yeah, I mean, it could happen for all I know. But yeah, I mean, as you were talking about this, it kind of sounded like as you were talking about like Putin and like the prosperity under Putin and how people were predicting it was going to be authoritarian. Like, it's kind of fucked up because it sounds like a lot like Trump to me, basically. Like sounds like Putin is basically like make Russia great again is essentially
well,
his
maybe
plan.
I don't know. I don't think Trump is as bad as say Bush or maybe I don't
Oh, you
know.
don't think he's as bad as Bush? Yeah.
Uh,
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that because I've always
like
felt like, Bush would have been the worst president of all time, except that he got extremely lucky that Trump came after him. You know what I mean? Like,
maybe I guess Trump is just he's very obviously a bad person, very obviously a bad president. But
right,
like in terms of action, there wasn't
right,
an Iraq war during Trump. It was a lot of
right,
bad shit.
definitely.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
he's a populist.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying that like the consequences of the Iraq war under Bush were so bad that, like I said, had there been no Trump, it would have been easy to say Bush is like the worst president of all time. I guess there's a couple other ones. I mean, I guess you could say like, I don't know, like Andrew Jackson maybe, was bad. Like, who, by the way, Trump like loves. Like, he had like a portrait of Andrew Jackson
No, of
in the
course.
Oval. He is like the worst president. Is like easily top three worst presidents ever. He has like a portrait of him in the Oval Office, but he's like a bizarro president. Um, but like what I mean, I'm very curious what it's like just like grow up in Russia, like because to me it's like Russia is like another planet. It's like another dimension where they all look like they pretty much look just like you could just be in America if you didn't see everything was like in Cyrillic or whatever, like it's you know what I mean? Like it doesn't seem
Well,
like there's
yeah,
that much of a difference.
yeah. I don't know if there's that much of the difference, because I don't know, like I've never been in America, and like I don't know of some cultural differences, but honestly, I think especially in the early 2000s, and like before the war, before all the repressions, well, it was still going on, but not in that scale. I don't know. I think it was basically like not so different.
Hmm.
I don't think so.
Hmm. So like when did you move out of Russia?
In 2019, I guess.
2019. Yeah, I guess you said that
Uh,
before.
yeah,
So
in Belarus, and from like I moved from Russia to Belarus to live with my girlfriend, and uh, we moved in Georgia. I guess right up to when the war started,
okay,
maybe.
interesting. Like in
Yeah,
2021, I think, right?
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, so like, so what was it like in Russia? I mean, you lived in Russia during like a repressive time, you would say, right? Like, so like, I've often wondered, like, I would see Artyom Trakhanov, like, say, like, as far as I remember, like, fairly openly anti-Putin stuff on Twitter, and I often thought, like, how the fuck does he get away with it? Like,
Well,
uh,
they kind of they don't care about like random people on Twitter
right,
as
right,
much. They more about like people with audience, and
right,
uh, all that stuff. Like it's pretty much random too, because there's a police brutality. Like in Russia, you can always end up in jail like for nothing. Like, they
huh?
just maybe they had to like do
They had a
some
quota.
quotas,
Yeah.
yeah, and they like just plant shit on you, and now you're in jail for like for drugs, even though you never had drugs to begin
Huh.
with. So it's stuff like that, but again, it's very random, and you kind of always uh, know people who were treated like that. You have some like stories, but you just go through life like thinking, well, it wouldn't happen with me. Like
Hmm.
and I guess that's the problem. But you know,
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's also like, what are you supposed to do? Like, you're supposed
yeah,
to, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I imagine you just try to keep your head down, try not for that to happen to you. Like, what are you supposed to do? The only other alternative is to like become like a revolutionary. And I'm sure there's plenty of people who do that and then just like are fucked. Like they just get, like just
yeah,
get killed or like whatever, like, or they're in prison in terrible conditions. Like, like essentially torture, I guess, like you would say. But so like it's just so hard to wrap your head around like what kind of effect do you think that has like on you or whatever that like you have to know in the back of your head, okay, I could be walking down the street and then, some cop just has a quota and then now I'm in jail. Like,
well,
what kind
it definitely leaves you with some PTSD, because
yeah.
like even like now in Georgia, a couple of years later, I still like if I see cops on the street, I kind of cross cross the road, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I
But
hear you.
I don't know. It's I guess I don't know. Uh, yeah, it seems like it wasn't that bad back then, like in the early 2000s or when I was in high school. But uh, I guess it was just not at that scale, and
Right.
it was like that in Belarus too. Like when my girlfriend grew up, because they have Lukashenko there, and he's basically the same. Like even more, probably even more ruthless in the worst times, because uh, like in 2012 there were protests, like big protests in Belarus, and it was the same stuff, because uh, like Dasha, my girlfriend, like people, they were arresting people on her job, and like I had to, uh, I had to ask her not to go to the job, to like work from the hotel, even not
Hmm.
from our house, because I was afraid
They'll just
he
arrest
gonna
you
arrest.
even if you're not
Yeah,
even a part of the protests. Like they don't give a
yeah.
fuck. Like,
Well, we that's the thing. We were on the protests, so
oh, okay, oh, okay.
they could say yeah.
So like, what was the protest exactly? Just like protests against just like a authoritarian, like.
Against Lukashenko, because he stole the damn, I forgot the word.
Election,
The
I guess.
present Yes, the presidential election. So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
basically just he lost, and then
Hmm.
uh, he just stayed at power,
Hmm.
and
Essentially, what
he
Trump
faked the
tried to do.
results. Well, yeah, but again, Trump is bad, but you don't have that kind of authoritarian power in America just yet,
Right.
I guess, because
Right. Yeah. I mean, you would have if he had been successful, but luckily he failed. But you know what I
yeah,
mean?
I guess, yeah.
Like it could have gone either way. Like we just got lucky that it didn't work. But we're gonna try it again, right? In 2024. Like roll the dice again. Let's see what happens. Like
Yeah, I don't think he has the juice anymore. I don't know.
I
I
hope
think
not.
it.
Yeah, I mean, I hope not. Yeah, it's scary. It just sucks. It's scary that just like, okay, every 4 years, they're just like, you know, uh, I feel bad using this term, but like, we're just gonna play a game of Russian roulette like every 4 years, just like see what comes up. Like, like see if we'll get lucky this time. Like, but I agree with you though that he already lost once, so I don't think he probably has lost the juice, like you said. You know, it's not 2016 anymore. Like
Mhm.
I don't know if he's got the magic anymore and enough to win at least. Like there'll always be a huge amount of people who are just like the cultists for Trump, and they'll just it
Well,
doesn't
of course,
matter.
I just feel like a lot of Republicans just moved on to DeSantis and other clowns.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but still, it's like okay, if DeSantis wins, he's just as bad. He may be like it kind of seems like you were hinting at this before.
Oh no, he definitely can't win. Like, look at his
Yeah, he
face.
can't. You think he can't win?
He yeah come on, like people with that face, they don't win. Like I mean I don't want to sound offensive. I'm just saying he's not a presidential material.
No, I hear you. I mean,
Like
when he
even for Republicans, like I think some people will vote for him, but basically he has no chance. I
I
think.
hear you. I mean, when he talks, it's like incredible to me because like, oh, his voice literally sounds like this. Like I'm Ron DeSantis. Like, oh, holy
Yeah.
shit! Like he is like he's like sounds like a dork. Like I'm sorry. Like I don't want to be offensive either. Like not everyone could be as handsome and charming as I am, but so I'm not trying to be like a jerk here for anyone who like has an annoying voice, but come on, like if you're trying to be president, like your voice probably shouldn't sound like this. Like if you're trying to be president, like
Yeah.
but then again, Trump sounds like a fucking cartoon character.
Well,
So
Trump is funny. Here's the thing.
yeah, you're right.
He's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
genuinely funny, and he's
Has a
also
crazy
he has a
charisma.
presence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And DeSantis, he's just he doesn't have it.
Yeah, he's like his voice is like ridiculous. Like the only person who sounds worse is like RFK Jr. is the only way you could be worse. Who he just sounds terrible, but they even at least that's not his fault. But I don't even know. It might be his fault. Like I think that's caused by like I think he says it's caused by like drug use, I think. So I don't know. So allegedly, don't be mad at me, RFK Jr. Don't be mad. But yeah, I mean I don't know. Stop me by the way. You mentioned PTSD before. Like, are you cool to even talk about this kind of stuff? Because like it's hard, for me, it's hard for me to even wrap my head around. It's like I could definitely see it being like, causing PTSD, or it's like, living in a repressive regime, basically, like a authoritarian regime. Like, um, I don't know,
Yeah,
like,
well, I don't know. Most of the time, you don't think about it. It's just when you like when something triggers you, you like, oh damn, I'm not in that situation anymore. But also, nothing really bad happened to me, so I'm lucky to say that, like personally, like I've never, yes, encountered that stuff. But I do have a lot of friends who, yeah. Uh,
hmm.
like I don't know. It's just I guess you're always aware of your surroundings. That's the best thing, the best way I can put it.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Um, well, I mean, I don't want to keep you forever, man. I mean, can you keep talking a little longer, or it's up to you? Like, we could just stop here if you wanted to.
I would like to stop because I would like to work a little bit today too.
All right, makes
So
sense. I mean,
yeah.
I'll probably cut out this little portion where I asked that question because it probably doesn't,
Mhm.
I'll cut that part out. But anyway, just assuming around here is when it's starting again. So when is your issue of Superman coming out? Like when are your issues going to be in the stores?
Uh, I think issue 6 is already out. I think it's came out at the end of September, and the second one, well, probably this like at the end of this month.
Okay, okay, gotcha. So then it's like 3 issues, and then you're going to come back on later, I guess.
Yeah, 3 issues. Then there's going to be another guy, and while he's working, I'm working on my stuff. So yeah, we'll see. But
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha. And
I'm
sorry.
very. I just want to say I'm very excited to work on this because, like, I couldn't call myself a biggest Superman fan out there, but I just like drawing him. I know there's something very like you feel the touch of the older generation because he's basically the first superhero, and with this switching through to the original numbering, like
It's cool. Yeah. I mean,
it's
it's
cool
it's
too. Like,
it's
yeah,
like an honor on some level. Like,
yeah, you feel like the part of this dynasty of artists.
yeah. I mean, it's like the Coca-Cola of superheroes. Like it's like it's like the Nike of superheroes. Like it's a pretty big
Yeah,
honor. Like it's really the major leagues, that you're working on. And I'll say like I am a huge Superman fan. So I've seen like a lot of the art that you're posting, and it looks incredibly good to me. So
thank you,
um
dude.
yeah, I mean, if you don't know anything about Superman, it sounds like from what you're saying, you could totally jump into this and be reading this. And I would, based on the art that I've seen, I would hugely recommend it. Um, and so I guess you could find Gleb at Gleb Melnikov 8 on Twitter /X. And
Yep.
you have like a Patreon, right? Like Gleb
Yeah.
Melnikov is a Patreon.
Yep.
And that's like what would you say is on there? Like you'd see like
Well, but
different.
basically, it's most of the stuff I publish there is my work stuff. So wanna, if you wanna see my process working on comics, it's all there. Also, I have an like basically a porn tier too, but I don't
Allegedly.
post. Well, not allegedly, I do have. Well, so yeah, but
Not allegedly.
like, yeah, if you want to draw some spicy
Yeah,
drawings
like
here,
18
like,
plus
yeah,
NSFW type stuff.
yeah, a couple times a month, then there's that. But basically, like 90% of that is just work.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, thanks so much for doing this, Gleb. Like anybody listening to this, like you got to follow Gleb. I mean, he's on track to be one of the top artists. Um, that's pretty much it, right?
Yep.
All right. Thanks so much, man.
Thank you for having me.